First off, for people who probably watch Instagram, and you do watch it because you see it with your eyes and you scroll with your finger.
Instagram.
Yeah. Probably one of the most prolific posters is going to be Ben Johnson. I think this is going to be exciting because people don't really know Ben. We do. We had one perception of him before we met him, and now that we know him, it's different.
I'd love to hear more about that.
Oh, it's so cool. It is so cool. I mean, it was basically a can't beat him, join him kind of situation. I was like, this guy, he's posting. Yep. Wait a second. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe he should be helping us out at Believe in the Run, which you graciously did. But I want people, look in the camera. This is Ben without makeup, because normally in his pictures every day he does like a full makeup session and then takes his photo in front of the garage.
Yep. And do my hair.
Yeah, hair and makeup. And he has a whole team, right?
Yep. Got the whole team.
So you were seeing Ben raw. So this is going to be exciting.
Can't wait.
So for people who are listening and don't know, we are chatting with Ben Johnson today.
Yeah.
Since you never actually introduced him.
Oh, I didn't? I figured people would know.
If we're talking about Ben.
Yeah. Like
it's Ben Johnson.
I mean, I happen to be a super Ben Johnson fan. So, I mean, I figure everybody is. Is that true, Ben? Do you find?
I like the description of prolific poster. I think that's a good way to describe me. Definitely post a lot, so I'm aligned with that.
But see, here's the thing. Just so people know, you have a day job.
I do, yep.
And it's in engineering, right?
Yep.
And I think what's interesting about the way that you approach Instagram and your posting is that you're not emotional about it. You're like, this is what works. This is what I'm putting out. And you've kind of worked the Instagram platform to your advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I like to use the online platforms. I think Instagram is what I am on now. I've definitely been on message boards and other types of things in the past. Not running, other things that I've done in my life. But I do like to try to, I guess, work with the algorithm, or at least provide the content that the broader audience likes to see. And that is how I set up kind of some of the content that I put out, but I think the other point that you made is very true, and I try to think through that it's not something that I do as a profession, and I've been trying to keep it that way, that I do have my day job, and then I keep Instagram as something that I can do for fun, off to the side, minimum commitments, minimum obligations to anyone else, so that I can provide the content that I want to provide, because that's important to me.
What's interesting, and we'll get on to other stuff other than Instagram, because I think people want to know your personality. And but before we get there, I think we cover this. You and I talked last time when we were down at the Donna Marathon, and you were like, I don't know, I'm posting. I'm like, your audience seems to respond to the style of posts that you do, and I do feel like there is a comfort in some channels. You find, okay, I subscribe to this one. I know I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this daily. Yep. I'm going to get that. So can you kind of, for people who aren't following you right now, how would you describe your daily posts?
Yeah, really consistent. I think that's one thing that my audience has definitely come to like, or at least that's my assumption, is that they've come to like, and that's why they've stuck around and it's continued to grow, is that I have had a specific layout essentially that I follow, and I do it every single day. I try to be very diligent about doing that, because I think that's almost like a backbone or a foundational element of what I have, is that it is about myself and my running. And I think from what I like to provide is that I think that helps provide some of the additional credibility, I guess I would say, is that I am providing my thoughts and opinions based on things that I have at least tried out or experienced, or things that I have used myself. And that's where I do try to make an effort. Even when I am busy, I'll try to get that daily post out there, because I run basically every day, and I'll make sure that I will get a post out, even if it's many hours after I actually went for the run, that I'll post what I did, what equipment I was using, what shoes I had on, and then kind of maybe a quick thought on how it felt. And then in between that, I add in all the other content, which I do end up being pretty data heavy and analytic. And I think that is another thing that I have always wondered if that's something that the audience is going to like, and if they're going to actually be interested in that. And I think sometimes it doesn't get maybe the broad appeal, but there's a lot of interaction with people that are interested in that kind of thing. And that helps motivate me to continue to provide that, because it's something that I'm thinking about. Like, I'm thinking about, how did my run feel? Was it the shoes? Was it this? Was it, the weather? And then across other things as well. But I never know if people are going to respond to that. But most of the time, it is a good, and there's a good amount of engagement on those posts as well.
I mean, Megan, we've been doing this for a while. The ability to run every day and be as consistent as Ben's been. Do you know anybody else that you feel consistently in health is pretty healthy? Like, and when I say healthy, I don't know mentally, but but I'm saying, like,
no injuries.
Yeah, we're not, like, you're ready to roll almost all the time. Like, if Megan called you and said, "Hey, I need someone to help get me to the what would you want right now? 245 is your next step, or you want to go lower than
sure.
that? Okay. She would call Ben, and Ben would be like, "It's Tuesday? Yeah, I can do that."
Yeah, I have found that is something I've gotten myself into. So when I started, I really had no expectations. So I started running in 2018, just based on signing up for a local race, and wanted to get in shape so that I could do something that I was proud of being able to accomplish. With that, got into training. That's also kind of when the Instagram thing started out. I think it was also a point of accountability, that I was just going to do my run and post it, and then continued on from there. So I ran my first marathon in June of the following year, in 2019. Since then, I did get injured once. So after that, I had a good build up to my first marathon. Essentially thought I could just training more and I would get faster. Got injured, injured my Achilles, and then I missed my fall marathon that year. But since then, I think I've done a lot better job of trying to manage my load and build up my training over time. But I've been very consistent since then. I think one thing that that has worked out well for me is that I do feel like I'm in pretty much marathon shape all the time. So I think, to your point of could just pick up on any given day and run marathon, I do feel like I'm pretty close to that, and I'm probably lucky that I recover pretty well too. So I've been doing multiple marathons a year lately.
I want to go back to your first race in 2018. Tell me a little bit more about what motivated you to sign up for that.
So,
and also, caveat, you got to throw in, if you've seen the before and after pictures from Ben that he posted. So, like, that he just started. It wasn't like he started and he was an athlete, I would say. You were chubby. You were.
Yeah. So I some of that happened separately. So I guess before I started running, I did, deliberately, purposely attempt to lose quite a bit of weight. So I lost in the range of like 40 to 50 pounds, but that was in around 2016, and that was completely on diet and intake control, and I was not doing any kind of physical activity at the time. So I was not a runner. I was not in any other sports.
Were you in sports as a kid?
I was up through high school. I did swimming in high school. I did other sports in high school, but after that, I had not done any type of organized sports, for over a decade.
What was the motivation to lose the weight?
I don't have a good answer for that. I think it kind of goes back to my personality, and this is probably with running as well, is that I am very, data-driven or results-driven, and the weight, I think, was a pretty easy one that I decided it was something that I would like to do. And you put the scale on the floor, and I forced myself to write down a number every day, and it helped keep me motivated. Definitely, I like to see results, and I think that's the other thing I like about running, is that I can go scroll back through all of my runs and put them into spreadsheets and look at them different ways, and I can see, am I getting better? Are the things that I'm doing working? And that was the same with the weight. You could just see the number on the scale.
Now, I know I'm derailing Megan's question even more, but that's insane to me. Like, that is one of the things about your personality that fascinates me. And I think sometimes you're attracted to people because they're similar to you, and I think sometimes you're attracted to people because they have a gift or something that is foreign to you. So when I look at you, in all the things you do it the exact opposite way that I do. I react a lot on emotion and feeling and this kind of stuff. Like, I have like gut, like, I think this would be cool. I think people would like post like this. I think, these are the things. And I think that the way that you operate, where you're like, here's the problem, here's the outcome. I need to run a 2:30 marathon. That means that I need to be running these paces. You just run them. Like, I'm like, I want to run those paces, and I'm like, can't. But you're like, this is what I need to do that. Here's what I need to do to improve. I'm going to do the weight training. I'm going to do this. And you're self-coached and everything like that. This is more of a compliment than a question, but because I do feel like Megan's question is important to leading into like your running evolution. So I'll let you get back to that, and I'll stop
Sure.
rambling. Go ahead.
Are we going back to the
We're going
initial,
back to
like why you signed up?
Yeah,
for
so
that
yeah,
first race?
I can go back to that one. So it was after I had gone through the weight loss period. I was basically at the same weight that I am right now. It initially started with my wife signed up for the TC 10 mile, which is in Minnesota, and that registration is a raffle or a lottery. So then I ended up getting talked into it with a group of coworkers, as well as my wife kind of nudging me on to sign up. And really the assumption at that time was that it is a lottery that most people don't get into, and I probably wouldn't have to do it. So I signed up for it with the group, then ended up being selected, of course. So then I decided I had to start training. So with the lottery sign up, you don't find out that you are in the race until about 3 months before. So it was a 10-mile race, hadn't really trained at all, decided I probably should do something to try to get in shape for that. So started running 3 times a week, essentially. Really didn't have any knowledge of running at the time, so it was kind of just run basically as hard as I could every single time and see how it went. And it was probably not the best training that I've learned now. It's probably not the right way to do it, but it ended up working. I didn't get hurt. I ended up running a pretty good time that I was happy with. I ran 68 minutes in that first 10 miles, so I was happy with that. But then basically after that point, I think I was pretty hooked on running, and that's where I started reading more about training, trying to learn about training, and that's where I got into a little bit better of a plan like I have now.
Were you aware at the time that you had talent? Like most people can't just kind of run as hard as they want and then go into a 10 miler and drop a 68 minute 10 miler.
I mean, I didn't know what I guess talent was or how well I would do, but I think I had always more or less been able to go out and run somewhat well. Like right at the beginning of my training, I signed up for a 5K, ran that about 22 minutes, and that I think that was a very small race. So I was kind of up in the the front group, and then got beat by some 14-year-old high school kid, wearing baggy shorts or something like that.
Ultra Boost.
Yeah. But I think that helped me know that if I put my mind to it, got the training right, I could probably continue to improve from there.
I always feel like beginning running is like the worst. Like there's a period of suck where like you kind of want to quit all the time. Did you go through that, or were you like you started running and you're like, I like this?
I was pretty motivated again by kind of the idea of setting a problem out in front of myself and then seeing the progress towards that. And I think that's one thing that really is nice about running, is that you can see things very objectively, where that's kind of was my training when I initially started. Was pretty much every single time I went out, I would want to run either farther than I ever had before or faster than I ever had before. So it was like a 2-mile run and then a 3-mile and then 4, 5, 6 up from there. So that really helped keep me motivated. There was definitely a period in that first year when I switched to running almost every day that I was just sore all the time. Like my legs felt terrible, and that was pretty tough to get through. But once I learned how to manage that, it was a lot better and easier to stay motivated. Have
you always been this analytical? Like,
I think yes. Yeah, I think that engineering background I think goes along with that. It's always been something that I've been able to very much take things objectively. I think kind of like Thomas mentioned before, I'm usually able to pull a lot of the emotion out of it, where I don't set specific expectations. I go in thinking this is what I want to do because I think it's going to have the best outcome, and if it doesn't have a good outcome, like if I do an Instagram post that I think is going to be cool and it isn't cool, it's kind of like, well, that didn't work. Next time I'm going to try something different than that. I try not to get too invested in that kind of thing.
So for me, before I ran, I was into different stuff. So skateboarding, I was obsessed with the decks, the wheels, the trucks, all the gear that went along with it. At one point I was golfing and I got into golf gear and all that kind of stuff, which is embarrassing to even say. But, when I got into running, I fell in love with the gear, and the shoes and the equipment. and you kind of came in a little bit later in the 18. There was already super shoes, but what did you find yourself like? You obviously love gear as much as we do,
definitely.
And like, what were you in? Like, is this something that transferred also for you from other hobbies?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely have always liked gear, so I've had a lot of other hobbies. I think the one thing that did help for me, super shoes, I think, is one of them, because it's really easy to be analytical with from that perspective. There's plenty of studies out there that you can go and dig into. There's actual data because it's been collected on that kind of thing. But the other thing that is helpful for me is that it can be something that is done every day. I think that's maybe the other character trait, is that once I'm focused on something, I get very focused on it. And some of the other hobbies, it's much more difficult to be involved every single day, and that's where running can be something that it makes sense, or it's common to go on a run every day or try a different pair of shoes every day, and be kind of thinking through that process almost all the time.
Can you even think about your life now without running?
It has become a big part of my life. I do try to make it a something that's not too disruptive, I guess, to my day-to-day, where I get up in the morning and get the run over in the 6 a.m. run pretty much every single day, and then try to move on with things from there.
Okay, so you said get the run over. Are you dreading these runs?
I'm not.
Okay.
I almost never dread the runs. I'm usually looking forward to it. I think that maybe that is the other part, where the gear aspect, or trying out new shoes, trying out new things, is something that really helps. And even the Instagram portion as well, is that there's always something
you got to get your
interesting
content.
Interesting and different to try to get through, even if the next day is just a easy hour like it is many days. There's can be other things that I'm thinking through about.
I do think it's strange that it becomes difficult with you having a long streak of not having injuries and stuff like that. It makes it easier. Like, you're on every day in the gram. I think where some people struggle when they get injured is it's not just about the running. Like you're saying, you're posting your runs, Strava, to your Instagram page. I don't even know if I follow you on Strava, because I just see every run on Instagram every day. But if you lose that, it's kind of like, what are you like? You've built this audience, you've built this stuff. Do you think you'd have a little bit of a feeling of a hole that you're like, what do I fill this with?
Yeah, definitely. That was a challenge when my Instagram was shut down for a period of time. Last year, end of last year, it was deactivated for reasons outside of my control. So there was a few weeks there where I didn't have, obviously, quite the platform to work with.
The timing of that was insane.
Yeah.
You're going to Kenya to go to a training camp with Eliud Kipchoge, and they take away your one channel for your voice, which is the Instagram. Like, did you have to talk to a doctor or anything? Like, was there anxiety?
No, it was definitely really, really bad timing. It was, I believe it was actually the morning that I was going to post the announcement publicly that I was going to Kenya. I think I had taken a picture in front of the garage door, like I always did, with a USA singlet on and then a Kenya singlet on, and I got it all ready, and then I go to log in Instagram and it says, well, can't log in. So it was tough. I think that is where I do feel like it's helped me a lot to try to keep the emotional aspect out of it, where I was able to kind of move through that.
Have you gone bungee jumping or parachute?
I have not.
Okay. There's this feeling you get right when you leave the platform that your chest just sinks, because you're like, oh, I hope I did the right thing, because I don't know these things tied to my feet are going to yank me back up. I imagine you opening your Instagram, saying can't log in, and that feeling of just dropping hits you like, oh crap.
I do think that was there to some extent. I think mostly for me it was the concern about letting down the other people and companies that I was working with and working for, that I was really felt like they had expectations of me, and now there'd be no way for me to fulfill those.
Well, yeah, obviously they want you to go, and they're like, your audience is clearly into this. We want your audience to be able to see and promote what we're doing over here. And in this case, it was Koros who sent you over. And to not have that channel, I can't imagine. Like I would have been in a panic.
It was tough. I think maybe the one thing that, I don't know if it helped, but at least mentally, I was really in a rushed, like frazzled state at that time, because the timing with that was a big challenge, because very last minute finding out this opportunity was out there, and there was a lot of logistics I was trying to get through in that
Like telling your wife that you're leaving for Kenya.
Yeah, in the last 3 weeks. And then it was also the week prior to that was the Boston Marathon, the first time I ran Boston. So it was like I ran Boston, I made a couple posts about that, and then I was going to make the announcement of the Kenya trip, and it was right in between there where it got shut down. But I was still trying to work through all of the final details of the trip and getting passports and visas and everything figured out at that time.
I just remember seeing that, and my heart dropped for you. I know I reached out to you and said, hey, anything I can do, you want to promote on Believe in the Run, do it. And you pretty much quickly had a new handle up, Smartly, and you drove people. We were able to, it felt like a lot of people wanted to help you out that were in our community of people, because I think it's funny because there's a lot of competitiveness in different industries, but I feel like in ours, like we're like, oh damn,
appreciate that. And
it's down, and you got up pretty quick though. Like you got, like for the second channel, it wasn't as high as your other one, but certainly a considerable number for it's not a total loss for Coro sending on a trip. You were able to get, how many people did you get in a short period of time? Like 30,000 or something?
No, it was less than that. It was less than 10,000, but it was pretty good just for a week or two, essentially, that it came back up. And the post got really good engagement, which I think was great to see. It was really the people that were most interested that made their way back.
I'm going to tell you, I think it also might have helped with the Instagram algorithm. They want to help new people out.
Yeah.
So you probably got your stuff pushed out more quickly than other stuff. We've noticed, like even like people who have like 3,000 to 5,000, if they post regularly, they're getting more reach than accounts like yours that have close to 80,000, just because I think that Instagram wants to bring that engagement up.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Right.
Can we go back to some of your training? Because
Sure.
I love talking about this. Okay, so you run your first race. You don't hate it.
Yep.
And then you're like, I want to see if I can get faster. So where do you go to first? Like, where do you start to get some training information?
On the internet and on books. So I bought a couple books.
The internet.
But the internet, that's a good one.
Like,
if you haven't heard about that, you should check that out.
Are we talking like you're just typing in a Google, how do
Yes.
I get faster?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it was on.
I can't imagine how much garbage is in there.
It is interesting. There's a lot of conflicting information on the internet, so you got to watch out for that. But I got into some of the running books, and I like those because most of them start with a lot of background on the rationale why training works. Like you're trying to build VO2 max, you're trying to build lactate threshold, and then you're trying to build endurance, and kind of just trying to understand a little bit of that background, help me understand what training I should be doing and what I should be going after. But I do really have to admit my training is extremely simple, and I don't necessarily understand what a lot of the like more complex workouts that I see people running all the time that get prescribed things by coaches are actually going after. So that's where I've personally shied away from those kind of things, because if I don't feel like I understand what the benefit is of a pyramid workout or something like that, I'm not going to do that for myself. I will kind of fall back onto something that I do and know about and has worked for me.
So you write your own training, but you're essentially doing the same training week after week.
Yeah, I don't change.
Similar.
I don't change it a lot, and I also wouldn't say that I write my own training, because I have never made any type of training plan that looks out farther than maybe the weekend long run if it's going to rain or not. But usually it's laying in bed the night before, or maybe the morning of, trying to decide if I'm going to do 800 repeats or a mile repeats, or a tempo run that's continuous, or if it's broken up. It's usually like I have my plan of I'll do some kind of interval or repeat on Tuesday, which probably for 2 years it was 800 repeats or half mile repeats every single Tuesday, and then Thursday will be some kind of tempo or threshold, and many times it's just a 10K tempo, and I'll just do that week in and week out.
See, I think here's the difference between Ben and most people. most people, if you said, okay, just pick what you think you'd like to work on that week. Everybody do 200 repeats every week.
I've never done a 200 repeat, so maybe I'll have to try that sometime. It's so much fun.
I would do the one that I'm like strongest at. I'd be like, okay, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, so you mentioned that when you first started, it was like you wanted to either run faster or longer than you ever had before. So when you're doing these workouts week after week, are you like, I need to be faster than the previous one?
Not necessarily. So I think that's one thing that changed once I really started to try to learn about the training. So that was after I ran that first race and got into training more or less every single day. I kind of read some of those books. That's where I got into, like, I should be trying to work on VO2 max and set more realistic paces and targets based on my current fitness. I think that's the other thing I've always tried to work through is understanding where my fitness is at and set the paces towards that and not set any specific or maybe just time-based goals, at least out in the future, because that I don't think is something that would lead me to do the right training. So really I do like to race a lot, so that's the other thing. I'll race 5K, 10K locally, and if I set a new personal best in any one of those times, that's essentially what resets my training paces after that.
Here's what I don't understand. A lot of times you go off of your Chorus watch as well. You'll have the race predictor, and you train off of that, don't you?
I look at it a lot. I don't know that I train off of it.
Is it faster than? Does it tell you you'd be faster than you actually are, or do you feel it's pretty accurate?
It is pretty accurate on the marathon time. The other times, I think it's a little bit optimistic for me. Either that or I'm just underperforming.
That makes me feel better because the marathon time is pretty close.
Yeah.
The rest of it is like
too fast.
Yeah, way too fast. Like,
just got to try a little bit harder.
I know I keep feeling like it's me, like I'm the problem. But it's because it's like you look at it and you're like, all right, this is saying I should be able to do this, and I'll go out. The other day I did I don't know, one case, and like I little shy, like it was horrible. It was really bad.
It was hot out.
Whatever. I can always come up with an excuse.
Yeah.
When I run well, it's because hey man, I'm great. when I don't, it's like, hey, it was hot. There was a wind. It was uphill.
Yeah. Into the wind both ways.
Yeah.
Knowing how analytical you are, you're out there running. Are you constantly looking down at your pace, or are you going by effort?
I try to go by effort. Sometimes it doesn't work out that well. So an interesting thing that I just reflected back on with somebody else recently is that when I started, I did not have a GPS watch. So I was just using my phone. And on the phone, I can't remember what app it was, but it had audio cues. So I would always run with headphones on. I would always have my phone. And I had it set to tell me my time, my distance, and my pace once every minute. So every minute it would tell me how fast I was going.
That's a lot of information.
Yeah, it was a lot. So I have.
Is that I would assume that you did Nike Running Club.
I don't remember. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Ben Johnson not doing Nike Running Club when he didn't have a GPS watch seems like unfathomable. Go ahead.
Yeah, but now I do try to use effort as much as I can. I definitely look at my watch. I think that's the other thing I like to do is I've learned that setting my watch to have lap pace and do it at mile splits, especially when I'm racing, that helps me not, I guess, oscillate in pace too often, because I think that's the challenge that I have. If I set it to a real-time pace and I look at it too often, I'll think I'm going too fast or too slow, and I'll constantly try to adjust.
That thing is nuts.
Yeah.
You can't trust that.
Okay, the other thing you mentioned is like planning your training ahead. Basically, you're just looking at the weekend, and if it's raining, are you telling me we're not going for a long run if it's raining?
I have a treadmill, and I will probably run on a treadmill.
Oh, come on, rain
runs are the best.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
Really?
I don't like.
What is
running
it?
in the
You
wet.
just don't enjoy it?
Not enjoyable.
I'd rather have a rain run than a hot. Like when it's hot and humid, and then you're in the summertime and it can rain. I'd rather have the rain than just the straight up humidity.
I think I agree with that.
Okay.
What about races? You've raced in the rain, haven't you?
I have.
Did you hate it?
I don't enjoy it. No.
But it doesn't did you PR? Do you even remember? what race
Well,
it was?
my last 5K was in the rain,
Okay.
and I PR'd in that, and it was actually a hot, humid day, so I think it was much better that it rained than if it would have
Right,
stopped
it
raining
breaks
and
that.
be like a jungle.
Yeah. The worst is when it rains right before the race.
Yeah.
And then you just get the steam off the road. And
Yeah.
it's so bad. So are you still going on running stuff? Or can I go into some personal stuff?
Whatever you want.
I kind of want to know. Like, I am fortunate enough that for the most part, my spouse loves to run. And so if I said, hey, we can't go someplace, we can't do this, I got to do a run, whatever. There's never once where I get that again, or, oh, you really, the kids, but you have a wife that besides, I know she runs a little bit, or I don't want to downplay it. Maybe she's a serious runner. I just don't see her on Instagram, but, is she as involved in running as you are?
She is not.
Okay. And you have 2 kids.
Yep.
2 girls.
Yep.
And you spend a lot of time on Instagram and running related things like coming here to Baltimore to hang out with us and party.
Yeah.
And go to marathons like Boston and all that stuff. And I know she comes on some of the trips. She's been out here before. How supportive or tolerant is she of this obsession of yours?
I'm extremely fortunate that I have a very accommodating and tolerant wife, and she's willing to work with this hobby and kind of make it work. I do like to try to make it a family affair if we have races and traveling as much as we can. Sometimes it doesn't work out. It is tough with the whole family and the kids. But yeah, she's obviously super, super accommodating. Really appreciate that of her, and she'll love to hear this, that she goes above and beyond to try to make sure things can work out. We do sometimes have scheduling challenges for sure, where it'll be, one of us will be like me running or her doing something else, and we'll have to try to figure out what to do with the kids.
Yeah. So in general, then, when you're running, she's cool with it, understands it. When you're on Instagram, though, and she's like, you guys are spending time together and your head's down in your phone, do you ever get crap for it?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes the kids will give us a hard time for that too. They're getting to that age.
Yeah, like, because I mean, you're pretty active. If someone asks a question, they get a response. You aren't someone who just posts and ignores the people that are trying to interact with you. Mm-hmm. You actually spend time, and I would think that would take a lot of time, sometimes depending on the post, that you're responding to people.
I try to engage as much as I can. Sometimes it is tough, especially if the questions I feel like deserve a longer answer or something more thoughtful. Those ones, unfortunately, are the ones that are the toughest for me to get back to. If it's kind of a yes or no question, I can
quickly
do those pretty quick.
Fire it
Yeah,
off.
I think the DM message requests have gone downhill a lot lately. So apologize to anybody that's sending me those, because I don't get to them nearly as much as
Those
I
are
used to.
really, I don't think, it's really tough to keep up with all of those sometimes. Yeah. And sometimes, like, if people aren't necessarily someone you follow back, and it goes into the section that's like that, a lot of times I'm sure time-based, you just decide whether or not you're going to respond to it at all. Yeah. So I get that. So with that, have you thought about other channels that you want to be on, or is Instagram, that's your homeboy right now?
Instagram's the one right now. I get a lot of comments that I should set up a YouTube type channel and do more of the video. I think that for me is just far and away a bigger time commitment, and something I'm not willing to go into. I think that is the nice thing with me for Instagram, is that I can make it fit and make it work, where it's not something that I need to dedicate specific time for. Like if I was trying to do video, I feel like I would just get consumed with editing and creating content.
Yeah. Especially as an engineer, I think you'd lose your mind after a while.
Yeah. Too much of a time commitment for me.
Yeah, it'd be a full-time job.
Yep.
Well, you're going to be on YouTube, so get excited.
Can't
this
wait.
will be up there.
Okay. So again, to kind of branch out, so running is important to you. Obviously, you have a full-time job. You're an engineer, and you have your family. Does it leave time for anything else? Like, do you have anything else that you spend your time or have a passion for?
Do a lot of stuff with kids these days. It's kind of getting to the age where they have activities almost every night. So it's usually do the run, go to work, come straight home from work, and off to something else with the kids.
What are they into?
They have soccer. They're both in soccer right now, and they're both in taekwondo right now. And my younger daughter is going to be starting up gymnastics here. So it's basically every day of the week we have at least one thing sometimes.
Do you know any taekwondo?
I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Like I know Robbie took his kids to check out taekwondo. My kids, I took them to karate when they were young, and it didn't work out. They have a problem with authority. If you know how that works. Yeah. So, all right. So we have races coming up. I know you're running Grandma's in, what is that, this weekend?
2 weeks. Not obviously this weekend.
Well,
the following.
It's next weekend. Yep.
Yeah.
Is that this weekend? No,
next
week.
I think next is the correct.
Anyway, so that's coming up.
Yep.
I know there's somebody else running that. Who would it be?
Kofuzi is going to be up at Grandma's as well. So
and it's crazy you guys are both going to be here this weekend.
Yeah.
Hydrating for your race.
Yeah. Taper.
Yeah, it should be. You'll get to the line feeling doughy for sure. So you're running with Kofuzi, or possibly running with him.
Yeah, I haven't talked that through with him yet. Kind of hoping to hammer out some details here when I see him this weekend.
Yeah, he'll be here this morning. Well, whenever this airs, he'll be here this morning. You'll see it in the video that's already been posted. Yeah, so that's Grandma's. No specific goal for Grandma's, right?
Nope. I feel like I maybe missed my chance to try to run a fast race this spring. So typically, I run multiple marathons a year, but usually I would try to do at least one fast one in the spring and one fast one in the fall. I generally sign up for a lot of races and then wait and see if the weather is going to be good. Hasn't really worked out so far this year. So I ran Boston, which is a tough course, and for me the weather wasn't great. Obviously, Megan had a great result, so some people can handle it better than others. And then I had one other local one that was very hot, so I didn't even run it.
When you say the weather wasn't great in Boston, what are you referring to?
I like cold weather. So I come from Minnesota, training over the winter. It is below freezing, obviously, every single day. A lot of times, way below freezing. So when it even gets up into like the 50s, it starts to feel hot for me if it's sunny out.
Summer vacation.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's so weird that I forgot you were in Boston because we were there and we didn't get to see it all.
Yeah, it was just a quick one for me, in and out. Didn't come in early enough. I think I probably would have tried to do a little bit more stuff if we came in for more of the weekend.
I was just going to say, your marathon progression, I mean, so your first marathon was 2018 or 2019?
2019.
2019, and what did you run?
I ran a 2:52.
Which, Ben also paced me. I can claim your slowest marathon.
So far, yep.
Because we ran together at the Woodlands, and we ran a 2:56.
Yep.
It was the first time I broke 3 hours. But now, what is your marathon PR?
Wait, I'm going to actually poop on him for a minute. I've done much better job, bringing my times down.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have much to work with.
I know.
Like, you got to Olympic qualify.
When you start out so fast.
I know, man. It's like, you're not that great. Yeah. I had to come from above 4 hours.
Nice. I've never ran longer than 3 hours, so you got me beat there.
But we're going to have to enter you in a 100-miler.
Yeah.
So that you can run for more than 3 hours.
But what's your PR and what course was that?
Okay, so 2:38, which was at CIM last December, which was a pretty good weather day, and that's a pretty good course and a strong field. I think that's the other thing that helped. There's always a lot of fast runners.
I've heard mixed things about CIM. We haven't run it. We had bibs. We might still have bibs.
I think we've missed that. We deferred the year before COVID.
Yeah.
Then we couldn't do anything. I think we would have had to have run
But I've heard mixed things about that course. Like people are like it's net downhill, but it's hilly, and then there's not crowd support, but the field is good. So
I would agree with all of those points. It is net downhill, but I think it looks faster on paper than it feels when you're running it because it is a lot of ups and downs. So it's kind of rolling the entire time where you're not on anything flat for the first 20 miles probably. But I think the other thing that helps me...
So it's the last 6 that evens out?
Yeah, it's really flat the last 10K, which I think is good because the other one that I've run that is a kind of a similar profile as Grandma's, where it's a net downhill rolling course, but Grandma's has a couple of the bigger hills, not huge hills obviously, but they're in the last 10K, which it feels pretty painful at that point, where at CIM it's pretty flat, and for me, I think that helps me kind of get into a groove of just kind of doing the same thing and not feeling that additional effort going up the hills.
And what shoe are you wearing?
I was in the Alpha Fly. Yep.
I've heard of this shoe.
When you towed the line for your very first race back in 2018, what shoe were you wearing? Do you remember?
Vaporfly.
Oh, so you were in super shoes
Man,
from
he's
day
never,
one?
Yes.
ever. Like, the technology that I first started running in was basically the lighter the shoe, the faster it was. So you got down to slippers. And I ran in some... I'll show it to you, man. It hurts just... Yeah, mate, grab that shoe right there. Hand that to Ben. All right, this is a shoe that I ran a marathon in. And it hurts. And when you finish the marathon, your feet hurt. And your legs hurt for a week.
For people listening, this is the Saucony what?
Type A.
Type A.
A.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very thin. Does not look like something I would enjoy running in.
I also broke my foot in that shoe.
Yeah,
But-
I've not had a stress fracture. Maybe that has to do with some of the thick shoes that I've been in.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say, hey, you've had a pretty healthy run. And, I mean, like, most of my, like, I don't want to jinx myself. I'm not even going to say it. But those shoes were harsher. Training and building up miles and thin shoes like that was definitely a challenge, like to keep your body feeling good. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, he's never had to suffer, really.
Do you think that's also partially why you're able to recover so quickly is some of the shoe technology?
Yeah, definitely. I like to run in the thicker, more cushioned shoes on a pretty regular basis, especially on the long runs, because I think that's where I feel the most fatigue and hardest to recover from. So it's not uncommon that I'll be in a super shoe for a Saturday run.
See, I love that.
And I think you told me, like, you run almost every day, which I'm always telling you to take a rest day.
Yep.
But you don't do a ton of very long runs. Like, you're not doing 22s very often.
Yep, I think that kind of goes back to when I got injured after the first marathon. I think I peaked at 20 miles before the first one, and then after that I jumped right back into 20 miles every single weekend. I was going up 21, 22, and I think that's when I got injured. And since then, at least for the first year, I limited my long run to 2 hours, and I never did a long run over 2 hours. So depending on the pace, that you're probably not going to get over 20 miles, and that's been working for me. So I typically don't do the super long ones.
I love it. I love that he's figuring out himself and, like, not just following a book just because that's what it says. Like, you seem like I couldn't do that because I just know that mine would be scattered all over the place. But for you, I think it's really impressive that you can take, here's how I feel, here's what's going to happen. I know that if I go past this, I can still achieve the things I want to do. And the thing is that, like, you're still getting faster. Mm-hmm. If you were, like, falling backwards, I'd be like, okay, maybe you should talk to a coach. But with that, like, you haven't qualified for the Olympics yet.
I have not
Is it
yet.
Is it a goal?
I don't have that goal for myself, no.
Okay, so what is your ultimate goal?
I don't think about it that way. I guess it's to continue to improve is how I would think about it. I don't know exactly where that's going to take me.
You enjoy running, and as long as you keep enjoying it, you'll keep doing it.
Yeah. Yep, definitely having fun is going to be a big part of it for me. If it ever starts to feel like it's too much of a grind or not something fun anymore, I think that's where I'd want to step back and try to take a reset. But right now, it's still going at it, and hopefully can continue to improve.
Yeah.
So 238, in my mind, if I had run a 238, I'd be looking to go sub 235 because that's just how my mind works. Is you don't have like a time goal necessarily. It's just...
No, I don't. I really try to avoid thinking that way, and I guess how I see it from what I've done myself, just with the running I've done since I ran the 238, I don't think I've done any runs that would indicate that I'm significantly faster than that, and I feel like right now going sub 235 would be a pretty big jump. I think the other thing that helps me is that with the training I do, I pretty frequently do things that are somewhat close to marathon pace, and that's where I can often tell that when you're looking at those several minute PRs, that's 10-15 seconds per mile quicker, and that is something that I can pretty easily run that for half an hour and feel like this is definitely not my marathon pace.
Do you ever feel like maybe being so analytical is actually preventing you from maybe doing something crazy on race day, like
Yes,
like
sometimes.
Like I feel like sometimes you can just have a day and you can run 10 minutes faster than you thought you could in the marathon. But if you...
I think that's also a good way to have a really bad marathon, and I would like to avoid doing that if possible. So I think maybe I do take that off the table. I don't think I'm ever going to run a 10-minute PR. I would be extremely surprised if I do that again in my life or ever in my life. I think it would be just kind of nipping away at it a couple minutes at a time.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to go out and run 220 pace for 10 miles and then step off the road. Like, that's not my goal.
That's fair. Yeah.
So how many marathons has it been that you've done?
I think 9, but I would have to double check my numbers on that
I
one.
was going to say, at the pace you're going.
Two
Even
of them were with me.
Yep.
There, yeah. Wow. 2 out of 9?
Yeah.
That's a fraction of some number. You're an engineer. What percentage
Two
is
ninths.
That? 2 ninths would be
It's
the
almost
answer.
20%. No, it's over 20%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That checks out.
See, look at my math. I'm doing math, Mom. They said you wouldn't need this after school, but I'm doing it. Yeah, so is there any other stuff that we should bring out people's attention about the Ben Johnson?
I have some end of podcast questions, but
I want to just rank some shoes.
okay.
Okay, because Ben, see, here's the thing. I think there's different reasons people like running shoes. And I think that even though we have a lot of differences on the analytical side, we both like to feel good while we're running. And it's all about the jazz of how a shoe works with your running form, how it goes, how it just feels. And you can quantify it with all the data and stuff like that. But you put a shoe on, and there's some that make you go fast, and you can hold fast paces in, and there's some that don't. So with that said, what would you say? I'm going to give you, instead of top 3, top 4 super shoes right now.
Alpha Fly is going to be on the top of the list, as well as the New Balance RC Elite. So those are the only 2 that I have picked to run a marathon in the last 2 years since they've been released. I think those are my favorite choices.
And I don't think you're breaking embargo or anything if you tell people that you have the SC Elite 3 and you run in that.
I cannot confirm if I have that or not.
All right, just smile. Okay, he smiled. And just give me a secret symbol if you prefer it over the Elite 2. All right, he winked you, folks. So it's an improvement. So when we're talking about top shoes right now, you've got Alpha Fly,
RC Elite, and then the Adios Pro line and the Asics Metaspeed line. I think those are going to be the top 4.
and then everybody else just kind of trickles in with trying underneath that. Seriously, though, I'm serious. Like when we review the shoes, I sort of feel the same way. There's like some brands that have figured it out, and there's some brands that are throwing plates into shoes and being like, this is our super shoe. Maybe it's to please their elite runners. Maybe it's to be part of the conversation in the market. But there's a great difference, I feel, between the ones that are actually making a difference and taking that percentage of efficiency.
Yeah, I would agree. I think some of them definitely feel faster, bouncier, more cushioned. The other part for me that I think holds back some of the other shoes is that there is such a push to try to reduce weight or minimize weight, even with the higher stack heights, is that they just don't end up being comfortable for me. Yeah, and the upper as well. I think some of them are so stripped down just to try to save a little bit weight that they don't end up fitting my foot that well. And I think some of them are also just so carved out and narrow that they don't feel comfortable for me on the marathon.
And we haven't run. We should have it any day now. The Saucony Endorphin Pro 2. Is it 2 or 3?
3.
3. The Endorphin Pro 3. We should have that, so we don't know if that would fit in this category. But I would say, and the one that's interesting in this mix, I would say, is the Asics, because you have the Metaspeed Sky Plus and the Metaspeed Sky Edge Plus. You've run them both of them. We've run them both of them. We're still trying to decide. I think Megan's definitely on the Sky Plus side.
Which I was looking at your Instagram post, and the the shoe design and like exactly where the plate falls, and it doesn't make sense to me that the Sky Plus feels softer, but it does, right? I don't, because the plate's closer. I don't know.
It feels bouncier.
Yeah.
I think the Sky Plus is one that I'm still trying to figure out, because I did like it. It feels pretty bouncy. In the previous Metaspeed Sky and Edge, I felt like the Edge fit my foot striker pattern a lot better, but it didn't have the full stack height, so I think that limited it from being a top marathon option. But now that the Plus has come out, that's increased the stack height on the Edge, I feel like that definitely could be a marathon option, and I like the feel of that one. To me, it feels a lot like the Vaporfly. But then with the Sky, they also changed that plate location, so I think that has changed it a bit for me. On the original Sky, it just didn't feel like it was moving me forward as much as I would like on some of the other shoes. But with the new setup, I did like it a lot on my first couple runs. So I'm still trying to
so is
figure
it?
out.
You think the Edge feels closer to the Alpha Fly?
No, to the Vaporfly.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with you on that. It is probably, I'd say, I almost think it's maybe a little better than the Vaporfly. I don't know. They're right there. I think you'd have to try it. For me, it had a little more give, a little more bounce, and I like the more aggressive plate, like the toe spring in it. I think makes a difference. But yeah, I don't know. The Sky, I'm basing it off of the Sky Plus. I've done 1 7-mile run in it, and I was like, I want to feel a little more pop. It could have been, but I feel like it could have been me. It was right after our trip to New York, and I've been not fully recovered. So I have to wait and see. But okay, so that's your Super Shoes daily trainer. Do you even do daily trainer?
I do, yeah. I do a variety of different shoes. I sometimes get lured into trying Super Shoes when they show up in the mailbox on a day when I should be doing an easier run. But I really liked the Rebel V2. That was it. That was one I put a ton of miles on. And then I also like the Invincible from Nike, because I just think the bounce on that one is really good. The other one that I think is very maybe unconventional or not designed to be a daily trainer that I have liked to run in on a regular basis is the Streak Fly from Nike. So I know that was posed as a 5K race shoe.
Wait a second. I'm gonna pause this because Brandon needs to pay attention to this. No, don't pause it, Brandon. Just pay attention. All right. I told Brandon, young Brandon, that the Streak Fly is a daily trainer. And I said, you don't understand the stack height. Everything is basically daily trainer. They're marketing as it 5K, 10K. Can you say again what you just said?
Yeah, Streak Fly is one of my favorite daily trainers. I think it can do it all. Feels good, bouncy, flexible. I think it has enough cushion to keep going.
I think in this case it's marketing, and I also think because it's a shoe that isn't super durable, that you want to market it as more like a special day shoe.
Yep.
But it is a phenomenal. To me, it falls right in line with the RC, not the RC, the
Rebel.
Yeah, the Rebel.
Yep.
Falls it like if there was a category of shoes that feel fast that you can wear every day. Streak Fly,
right.
Rebel, they're right on the same par. As a matter of fact, I think comparing it to the Pace, the SC Pacer, is probably not a great comparison as much as it will be Rebel to Rebel.
I would agree to that.
Yeah,
with
Rebel
that, it feels the Streak Fly feels more like the Rebel than a super shoe, a low super shoe.
Yeah. So they never had, like he doesn't realize that was the same stack height as
like a Pegasus or something like that. But it's just so light. That's what I like about it. You can wear any other daily trainer and feel like it has just about that much cushion, but you put the Streak Fly on and it feels like weightless, but still has plenty.
You and I did a reel
cushion
down in Florida, and we picked up the Pace on a straightaway, and the shoe livens up, and I don't think it needs a plate. It just kind of
I think it feels great.
Hung in there. Now, one difference is like a lot of the shoes that we get sent to us from the companies, and knowing that we're going to review it and put it on YouTube, put it on TV, or not TV, but well, you can watch it on your TV, but on the website and all that stuff. You end up buying a lot of your shoes.
Yep, it is sometimes surprising to people that I do end up still buying quite a few of my shoes. It is something that can be a little bit of the kind of fun and games behind trying to get things and get able to try them out, and I guess also to get the content before other people, is that I usually am trying to stay on top of release dates and when things are available and how to get a hold of them, because I think that is a lot of the interest and draw is having something and getting some of the thoughts out before it actually hits the broader market. And if it's not something that's being provided, it will be something that I go out and try to acquire for myself.
Yeah. For example, you and I after this podcast are going to go for a run in the Adidas Pro 3. You had a hookup all the way from China?
China, yeah. So they were released in China. That was something that I saw online pretty shortly after Adidas did their last in-person event in Europe, that they had the shoes on the market in China. So I was able to get someone that was able to purchase them for me and send them over. It was a pretty limited release. But
did this work all the way through your Instagram connections?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
So luckily for you, because you don't speak Chinese, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay. So that they luckily spoke English.
Yes.
They DM you
Yep.
or whatever, and you say, "Hey, how much is it going to cost to get these over here?"
Yep. Yeah.
And can I ask how much does that cost to get a pair of super
It was
shoes?
just the exchange rate and the shipping. I think it was about $280, so it was pretty close. Just with the shipping cost of getting it from China to the U.S.
And I believe it retails for $250.
I think it's listed on the website for $220 U.S., but I think with the exchange rate, it's a little bit higher.
I actually think they raised the price to $250. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to check on that, but I do originally. I think it was $220.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Wait, why are we doing that?
Inflation.
Why are we selling for $220?
Yeah.
People pay $250, no problem." That's kind of incredible that like you've developed a network of exchange and trade stuff. Now, would he call you if there's something that was in the U.S. that he wanted shipped to China?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you might be setting yourself up for international trade.
Yep, I'm obligated.
Yeah. You should quit the Instagram thing, set up like a stock exchange for, the StockX for running shoes just for through the countries. That's pretty cool. So Meg, do you want to do some wrap-up questions with him?
I do. Okay. Headphones or no headphones on a solo run?
No headphones.
Even on your treadmill?
On the treadmill, I do.
Okay.
So I'll watch YouTube on the treadmill. That's
Are you watching Thomas do shoe reviews while you're running?
A lot of times I do. So I don't.
When she said douche reviews, I just heard douche.
I don't listen to much for podcasts, but when I'm on the treadmill, that's where I'll try to get all caught up.
You'll probably listen to this one on the treadmill. Hey, enjoy your run, Ben.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, what is your post-race celebratory meal or beverage, or both?
I don't think I really have one. I'll probably eat Chipotle.
You don't have like a go-to?
I figured you're an engineer.
Yeah.
You have this all planned out.
Well, okay,
cheeseburger, one slice of cheese, 2 pieces of bacon, 5 pickles.
No, but I don't have a meal. But if I go to a race, I think even when I'm traveling, I'll try to plan to pack a protein shake, a bottle of water, and an apple that's already cut up. That's like my main 3 things that I'll try
for like
to
immediately
consume.
after.
Yeah. Yep.
That's actually.
You're so diligent.
It actually sounds quite nice.
Okay, so what about a little bit later, and when you're in like more celebratory
Party
mode,
mode.
are you having a beverage of sorts?
Usually not. No.
Still no. Okay.
Okay, but tomorrow,
Yes.
will you drink your allotment of Crispy Boys and Sour Girl?
I will.
Okay.
I'll attempt to drink my allotment.
We went to
I don't
the
know how much I'm allotted.
We took him to the brewery, Meg, and he got to see them canning it up.
Yeah.
How exciting was that for me?
You looked excited.
But that was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was neat.
Okay, I'm adding a question into our end of podcast questions. What was your least favorite and most favorite thing about pacing me at either marathon?
Definitely the least favorite is when I cannot tell if you want to change the pace. That's always the hardest, and I think I have not yet cracked the code of how to best communicate during a race. Maybe that's something I can work on as a pacer, on trying to make sure I'm doing the right thing, 'cause that's always my concern, is like, am I holding you back? Am I pushing too hard? So that's the most challenging for me. The best I don't know, the best thing was probably seeing you win at Donna, which was awesome. Coming all the way through the finish and watching you break the tape, that was cool to see.
That was fun. Yeah, you also happened to pace me for 2 races where I felt really, really awful in the second half of them. Not even great in the first half at the Woodlands. So I appreciate you.
My favorite is seeing how bad Megan's face looks in pain with you doing their
Smiling and
It's a
waving.
good time.
full smile.
Yep.
No problem here. I got this rolling in. And, you know, I do think of, I know you're a big fan of Ilya Kipchoge. So the smile thing is something that you're emulating your hero with. But I'm starting to think that Kipchoge's smiling because he's in extreme pain.
That might be
tactic,
it.
yeah.
I think that's it.
So I don't know. But yeah, it watching you guys run, being a spectator of that, for me is such a treat. I wish I could be up there running with Megan and to watch you guys work together, and I just have full confidence. Like I know it's like, okay, like I forget where we were. We were on the course and it was raining. Your least favorite. It was the wind
And windy.
Wind was blowing sideways hard. Like I saw you guys, you were running down. I'm like 100 yards down the road. You guys are like getting blown up and down the street. So you weren't just fighting to go forward. You were fighting to not get blown into the ocean. It was crazy. And you looked, that was mile 16 or so. And Ben just looked totally comfortable.
Because he was totally
Feeling good.
comfortable.
Yeah.
That was what your second slowest? Because the two, I can claim his slowest marathon.
I do. I really enjoy pacing. I think that's a lot of fun. And for me, it is I guess it feels like much lower pressure than trying to race myself and do a PR. I think that's one thing I have tried to manage for myself is not put a lot of pressure on myself. And I think everybody maybe struggles with that. And for me, being able to do some of them for fun and some of them, for myself and for my own personal best helps a lot. I think I feel like if I try to put all my eggs into one basket, like one big race for the year, I would be, really stressing out and probably not good for my own mental health to try to do that to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you wanted to get a new PB and pay someone to a 3:20 marathon, I'm all for it.
Longest run PB.
Yeah. Is it?
Okay, our final question is, if you were not an engineer, what would you be doing?
TikTok.
I guess I would be interested in trying to do something on my own, I guess, on like kind of running my own type of business, but I don't know what that would be. I think that's something that's always been alluring to me, is kind of being my own boss. I don't think I've ever found something that I feel like I am passionate enough about and also willing to try to commit to that as a source of income and not be concerned that it would burn me out or be something that I would then no longer enjoy. But if I was able to find a mix like that and be able to kind of make my own rules and be my own boss, I think that'd be something I'd be interested in.
For sure. We can relate to that.
Yeah. It looks like fun.
All right. Ben, thank you for joining us. It was awesome to talk to you.
I think this is going to be fascinating for people because I think, and I'll bring it full circle from the beginning. When we first saw Ben, I was like, holy crap, this dude posts a ton of stuff. Where's he coming from? And it's like, we were posting similar stuff, and I was like, this guy just keeps going. It's like the Energizer Bunny. And I was like, can't keep up with this dude. This is annoying. And then I was like, all right. I was like, you know what? Let's see if he'd be interested in reviewing. He seems to have all the same shoes and stuff. Maybe he wants to have a voice heard. Maybe he wants to be part of the conversation. So I still was like, whatever. And then we got to meet you. I think the first time we got like really in depth to meet you was probably, was it before Woodlands?
No, we
I think
did.
it was Woodlands the first time we met.
Yeah.
Which was crazy because I was like, you're going to pace me. We've never met before. You might I don't know. We knew nothing about each other. But now I feel like we're bonded for life.
Yeah. And I think that you miss, because you come off as analytical, somewhat, regimented. I expected it not to have much of a personality. And then when I met you, I was like, oh, he's actually not just has a personality. He's a lovely personality. Like, you're fun to be around. And so we were like, this is great. And then every time I hang out, and even times where I've gotten a chance to run with you, you're just a nice dude. Like, I like hanging out with you. I like spending time with you. Enough so that when we're having a party, we're like, you gotta come. We gotta get.
You gotta be here.
You gotta get Ben out here.
Yeah.
So I think that, hopefully people will get a glimpse of who's behind the posts. And I actually think that your Instagram posts have gotten more personal, and you've seen more of who you are as you've grown. I think in the beginning it was more like picture description, picture description, picture description. And now it is like you're like I said, interacting with the crowd and stuff like that. So I think that people are getting a chance to see you. And I think that, when people say they would love you to have a YouTube, I think that people would genuinely like to see more of you and to interact with you more. So I think you should take that as a compliment.
Yeah, appreciate that. I try not to take myself too seriously, even though it might seem like it sometimes online. But not planning to do a YouTube.
Making that clear.
Yeah.
No YouTube for Ben Johnson. Just here today. Yeah. Enjoy.
Yeah. We'll do lots of filming of Ben during this weekend.
Yeah.
And that'll be his YouTube debut, I guess.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. There's been a long time waiting. We've wanted to have Ben on before, but because he's up at 6 a.m. and then goes straight to work and then takes the kids to activities, and we don't want to stay up till 9 to do a podcast, we haven't had a chance to come on, so we dragged him on today when he came out to Baltimore. So it's been great.
Yep.
Appreciate it. I'm glad to do it in person. Happy to be here.